Brian, you've brought us three stock ideas today. Let's start with Shopify, near an all-time high. They had their developers conference recently. I'm wondering, as this company evolves and continues to innovate and push into different areas like fulfillment and other segments, where are they headed? What is Shopify going to look like in 2, 3, 5 years, do you think?
Shopify's done a wonderful job, here in North America, providing a service to small business owners, especially. And I think a lot of the growth, obviously, has come from that. Do think you're going to see further diversification in terms of that company going forward. And the great management side of things has been very vocal and very visible in the communities, both in the United States and Canada. And I think that adds credibility for what they're doing. At one point last year, thanks to Shopify, Mark, technology was the third largest sector in the Canadian markets. A lot of people miss that. So a lot of people talk about how the big three in Canada, that being materials, financials, and energy, are helping Canada outperform. And that's true. But at one point last year, energy fell below technology because of what was happening in the broader global spot of technology. And I think Shopify really drove that. But it really speaks to the wherewithal and ingenuity and innovation of what Shopify has been able to do the last several years.
There's been a bit of a revolving door with executives and other employees leaving the company. Is that just a natural course of business as a company grows, or is there any concern that there's something amiss with the culture, or maybe they're too top heavy and Lutke and the COO Finkelstein are too hands on maybe?
Well, you had a hands-on CEO by the name of Jeff Bezos that, after several decades,
oh, sure, you choose him.
Go ride a rocket ship, or look at the transition of leadership in Microsoft. Microsoft, I remember when I worked at Merrill Lynch in the 2000s, I would go out and speak to Microsoft's board quarterly, and then also their foundation, which by that time Bill Gates stepped down, but he was at the board meeting still, and Mr. Ballmer was the CEO. And during Ballmer's 10 or 12 years there, the stock massively underperformed. And then, of course, they've had new leadership and innovation from there. But I think it's a natural progression. Same thing happened with Google as well. We've seen a lot of transition there. Apple has been an amazing consistency in terms of leadership. So I wouldn't look too much into that for some companies, that this is a natural progression. And I think it also speaks to the way that the stock is performing, not only from a price performance standpoint, but fundamentally that they've got good bench strength. So I think that's going to be a situation that is not going to be an issue for Shopify.
Another idea is Aritzia. I can tell you anecdotally that I own the stock. My wife owned the stock. We know that consumers are fickle when it comes to retail and apparel. How does Aritzia differentiate itself and to be able to continue to grow on the brick and mortar side and on digital?
Well, they're on point, right? And I'm obviously not a fashion guru, but they're on point in terms of how they manage their inventory. They pick the right spots. They have the right real estate. And they were one of the retailers that did a wonderful job pivoting from an online perspective and did a great job transitioning that during COVID. And I know I'm in Minnesota right now in the United States. And I know that Toronto in particular has had just a really tough time from the retail side. But now that things are opening up and the like, from that bricks and mortar side of things, Aritzia, I think, has a lot of upside from a revenue perspective, but they did a wonderful job planning and positioning that. And so it's a stock that we've liked in portfolios and own it in a few that we run for BMO Wealth Management in Canada.
And then Spotify is coming out with earnings next week, July 28th. This is the audio streamer that leads the way globally, pushing into 80 new markets apparently this year. And also they're in the midst of a spending spree on the podcast side. So what are the factors that you think will help them stay in the lead?
Well, being in the broadcast industry, it's all about content. And I think audio is an amazing theme. I don't think enough people talk about audio as a theme. And many investors that have listened to us for years know that we have this massive affinity for Apple. I think it's one of the greatest companies in the world. But I will tell you, Mark, that I think from a product perspective, I think Spotify is a better product with respect to the media and the podcasting and just being able to make lists and share lists and all of that. And I do think it's one of those names that have become more of a brand name type of feature. And I think We in Western society in particular love our brands, and we always have. You can go back decades. And I think the new brands of technology and communication services and Spotify fits that bill. So we've owned the stock for a while. We own it in a couple portfolios that we run, both in the United States and Canada. We think it's a way, because it is listed in New York, but it's not in the index. I like to own companies that are not in the index, because then you can differentiate yourself as a portfolio manager, and that's a name that kind of fits our bill.